mother was 28 years old when she was married, and she had 12 children. I'm the last survivor. I'm the 12th one. And so she was 48 years old when she had me. And she would have to stay at home and keep the youngest child sometime, and Daddy would take us to church in a carriage. And of course, we didn't have air conditioning, and we didn't have a hard surface roads then. So Mother made us dusters to wear so we wouldn't get our dresses dusted going to church. And we'd pull them off and leave them in the carriage before we went in church. Everybody wore bonnets then. They didn't make straw hats like they do now for people to wear when they go out in the sun. And they wore bonnets. Wasn't many Sundays before somebody didn't come and eat with you. Now, they don't do that now, but we had company quite often. People would come home from church with you, but they don't do that anymore. And that was Annie Gibbs and Grace Buck, Luce Hale, and myself. And I just don't remember where that was taken, but you can see it was a stump there. We were sitting on that stump, but that was a church picnic. We had a swing on the back porch and chairs up there, and you can seat a lot of people on there. Where sometimes they just said, let's take the pictures off the steps here, and they'd take them there. Well, at first, we didn't have no ways to go to school. We were too small. So my father got a teacher. So we had teachers, and they boarded at home. And we had teachers until we were in the 3rd grade. At least I was in the 3rd grade. And then I went to Rochelle. We had an extra building. We called it the wash house. It was 2 stories, and when we butchered hogs, we took care of all the meat in on the 1st floor, and on the 2nd floor, we had apple trees and pear trees on the farm, while we'd keep our fruit up on the 2nd floor. But we had a big fireplace in there, and we had benches, and it was plenty of room. We had a very nice place for school. We used to make a freezer ice cream every Sunday morning before we went to church. We had cows, of course, and we used milk and cream, and we had an ice house. So when they froze hard enough to put, the ice house had a wall, stone wall around it, and we put ice in there, and we could keep it all the winter until late in the spring. So we'd go down, have to have a ladder after you use so much of the ice to go down in there and get that ice, and we put it in the freezer. We had a wooden bucket or tub, and then you put your ice cream in the can and put it down in there and put ice all the way around it and turn it until it froze hard. And of course, us kids would just get it and drive around down the farm. And I don't think I ever had anybody to teach me how to drive. We just learned ourselves, and then when we got a permit, why we took off. They were good days. They were good days. People don't have good times like we did when we come along, I don't believe. I'll take the time when I came along, better not take the time now. Well, it was a baseball game at Madison. It was during the week, and my brother and some of us was on the way going to that. In fact, they used to have protracted meetings at the church for a week when they had meetings then. and they would have services in the morning so the older people could come. And we had been to church that morning, and his sister came home with us from church, which we did that in those days, went home with one another, and then go to church that night, and then they'd go home. So on our way to the ball game, we had a flat tire, my brother did, and he came along, and he said, well, I'll help you out. And my brother said, well, I'm about through now. I think I can manage it. So he said, well, any of y'all want to ride with me on up there? And I don't know why I did, but my sister and I got in the car with him. And we went on to Madison. So the ball came. So I think he went on back home with us. I said, well, will you go back home with us and have supper and go to church tonight? So we did. So which I never thought it would turn out to what it did. But I didn't regret it. I never had any regrets at all. So from then on, we gradually went together. So had a few dates and just kept on. I think Frank took me to the fair one night, Orange Fair, and I won that doll. And that's why I have that doll there. He was in the Navy in World War I. And when he got out of that, he worked here in Sparks' store, I believe, for a little while. I believe he traveled for a while, worked for a tobacco company, I believe. And then his brother-in-law had store up there and post office. And he worked up there for until he started the store at Orange. And his brother was working, Rufus. I think he was selling refrigerators. And they decided to go in the furniture business together. And they opened up on Railroad Avenue. And they was doing fairly good with him, satisfied with him. So then they opened up on Chapman Street. And they stayed there until his brother was taken sick, and he passed away with cancer in '62. And he kept the store open until about 70 some. We had set our wedding date for the 35th, I think, of January. That we would go to they had the furniture show every January and July in North Carolina, and one or the other would go to that every year. So he thought, well, we'll go to the furniture show and then go on to Florida. So a deep snow came on Tuesday. The telephones was out of order. And Frank, I didn't hear a thing from him until Friday evening. And on Saturday, we were supposed to get married. I wanted a church wedding, but I knew my mother and father couldn't go because the mother just wasn't able to get out in the wintertime. So I said, I'll be married at home. And that's where we were married. And the snow came, and Frank called me. Roads was all out of order, no one could get over. We finally got the snow cleaned off the roads. He called me Friday and said, well, can you go to Madison? And I think we better go up and get our marriage license if we're going to get married tomorrow. So we did, and the preacher finally got it home, and we were married. So we left there Saturday morning after we were married and drove to Lynchburg that day in the car. And then we went on to North Carolina the next day, and we left the car there and went on the train to Florida. He was going to Richmond one day, and I said, well, I would like to do some shopping. That must have been pretty early after we were married. And so a neighbor of ours went with me, and it was a rough day that day, but that was the somebody snapped that on us on the street in Richmond. I just got that letter in mail one day, or that bill rather, and I thought, well, so I hope I paid it. I hope I more than paid it. But I thought it was cute. A lot of people tell me today I still have the furniture that I bought from the store. Well, that was our neighbors surprised us on our 25th anniversary and gave us a party. And that was the end, those pictures there. But yes, one of the neighbors invited us over to their home that night for dinner. And then after we finished eating, they said, let's go out riding. So, of course, we said, okay. And we didn't think anything. And when they brought us back home, I didn't see no cars there or anything. They parked over at our neighbor's back of us, at Bunky Jones, Verdie Jones. And I said, Frank, I believe I see a little light in the living room. And I said, I didn't see leaving a light on. So when we opened the front door to go in, everybody said, surprise. So the house was full of people. And that's what it turned out to be. Well, that's me in my kitchen, and that's me. I love my kitchen. Well, I just kept looking in every book I could get to find plans of what I wanted. So finally I found this one. We made a few changes, but Bobby Butler built the house. The church used to be back in the cemetery. Did you know that? It was back farther in the cemetery than what it is now. And at one time they said, how about moving the church out? And I thought to myself, that can't be done. That big church moving it forward. Well, I was on the committee. So it was moved out. It's a hollow here in town. Do you remember him? Well, he was the one that moved it out. Did a wonderful job. And after that, of course, we had to take the pews out and all the furniture and we put it over in the Rochelle high school building. That's where we stored it while that was being done. And when we were cleaning it up and getting all the furniture back, I said to some of the members, I said, I don't see why we can't have a homecoming like the others do around here. And so we talked it up. Mr. Troutman was a preacher then. And so we talked it over and we decided to have it. And he came by my home one day and asked me would I take charge of the kitchen. When we moved it out, we put the addition on it then. And he asked me would I take charge of the kitchen. I said, well, I'll do the best I can with it. So in September, we had the homecoming, and we had a good crowd, and we've been having it ever since. I've been going there all my life. Certainly was an easygoing person. I never heard him or saw him get mad and upset over anything. He was an easy person to get along with. And I reckon I was his baby. They always said I was. I never remember him whipping me at all. Well, they told me that I had to go to church that day, which I said I wanted to follow in his footsteps. And so I did go. And we're the only two at that church so far. Have been reached 100 years old.
Glorious day that is the way Mount Nebo, we wish for every Sunday. This is marvelous, and we welcome all of our visitors and guests. I think it's just, I know that in my lifetime I will never, ever, I'm sure, be celebrating a birthday, a 100th birthday on Sunday, on the very birthday. And Verdie has done that for us to make this a very special Sunday, not only here to worship our Lord and to remember, but also to honor Verdie and what an amazing witness that not only is she in Mount Nebo on her 100th birthday, but her father was in Mount Nebo on his 100th birthday. And I'll bet you that not a lot of families can equal that. And what an amazing celebration for Verdie and her family, but also for us in Mount Nebo and as her church family.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Fred Brisbane, and I'm Vice President of the Council here at Mount Nebo Church. The Council is talking about some special ways that we might honor Verdie on the occasion of her 100th birthday. Kicked around a lot of ideas. It kept coming up that Verdie was really interested in the cemetery and seeing that the cemetery was well maintained. Verdie said she was delighted that we would honor her in this way. So the response was really overwhelming. We set out to do this Thrive Lutheran Services. We had a $1,300 allocation in Thrive for this year. And I said, well, we don't only want to double that, we want to raise 5 or 6 times that much money in Verdie's honor. But thanks to all of you and everyone who responded, we have today $17,015 in your honor, Verdie. How people love you, and how much they feel about you.
I'm glad to know that such a girl will be taken care of.
Thank you very much. Good, thank you.
Thank you all.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Verdie. Happy birthday to you. All right.